Hi, I'm Jack from Options Insight and welcome to Trading 101. So inflation has been mentioned quite a lot in the last year or so, both in our macro insight videos and all over the media. Energy prices have spiked, President Biden is taking the blame, and even the Federal Reserve has said they'll combat inflation with higher interest rates in the year 2022. But what is inflation and why does it actually matter?
In this video, I will be answering the following questions. What is inflation? Why is inflation bad? And what can you do about it? Okay, so first things first, it's important that we understand what inflation actually means. So, inflation is the rate at which the value of a given currency decreases, which makes the general price for goods and services increase. The way inflation is measured is through two different indexes, the first being the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, and the second, which is the PPI, the Producer Price Index. Starting with the CPI then. This is an index that refers to the cost of a basket of goods and how the value of those goods changes over time. So, for example, today in the UK, a loaf of bread will cost you roughly £1.20, whereas just 20 years ago, that loaf of bread would have cost you 70 pence, meaning the price of bread has almost doubled in the last 20 years alone. Whilst everyone needs to buy food like bread, not everyone's list of goods are the same. So depending on your age, financial, or educational situation, we all buy different things. Because of this, just looking at the broad CPI as a measure of inflation doesn't actually tell you the full picture in terms of what is happening to the cost of living for the masses. Now we move on to the PPI. This measures the price of raw goods and services, such as mining, manufacturing, and agriculture. These goods or services are then purchased by us, the consumers. So now you might be wondering, so what's the difference between the CPI and the PPI? The CPI is different from the PPI in that it measures the cost of goods and services to us, the consumers, whereas the PPI just measures the cost to the people that are actually making the things that we buy. The two indexes should actually move in tandem, but with a lag, as if prices are going up to make these goods, then companies will eventually try to pass these price rises onto their customers. Otherwise, they themselves would actually end up losing money. This here is a chart that shows the two moving together, with the CPI lagging behind and how high the two have reached in relative to the last decade. On to the next question then. Why is inflation bad? If the prices of goods and services are going up, but your wages are remaining the same, then it costs you more to buy the things that you need. This here is the biggest problem with inflation. Inflation is one of the biggest causes of wealth inequality, with those that own assets such as houses and stocks getting richer, and the general everyday people having to face the full impact of a higher cost of living. People that have to buy these higher cost goods and services, whilst keeping what little spare cash they have in little to no interest savings accounts, are the ones that get burnt the most. This is why the younger generation, like myself, suffer the most from inflation, as we don't actually receive enough wages to even get onto the property ladder, or even buy stocks to protect us from higher asset prices in the future. When inflation gets really out of control, like it has in recent times in countries like Zimbabwe and Venezuela, and even right now in Turkey, it can cause havoc with the economy and destroy people's livelihoods, sending them into extreme poverty. Whilst these types of hyperinflation outcomes are considered unlikely in developed economies, we should always be aware of the risks and learn from history. So what can you actually do to protect yourselves from inflation? There are many ways you can try and protect yourselves from inflation. The first thing to do is don't hold too much cash, and instead, with any spare capital you have, invest in assets that will protect your purchasing power. For example, having some assets like gold and silver is a great start. These stores of value have been around for centuries, and their price generally goes up as paper currencies get devalued. Next, we have stocks and property. However, property is difficult because of the large amount of money you actually need for a deposit on a house. So an alternative would be real estate investment trusts, otherwise known as REITs, which are like stocks and give you exposure to real estate. And the final, much more controversial option is crypto. In recent times, this has been the best performing inflation hedge, due to the fact there is a limited supply, unlike paper currencies, and it has been gaining more and more mainstream adoption. Thank you for watching this episode about inflation. I hope you have learned something from this video, and please don't forget to subscribe and like. Also, please comment with any questions or feedback and what other topics you would like me to cover next. In my videos on crypto and Bitcoin, I go into detail of what this new exciting asset class is, how it works, and why it is growing so fast. I'm Jack, and this has been Trading 101.